Well, that's why we need more people on our side who would be committed to being teachers. They don't have to be vocal about their views, but get in there, be more covert, and just start taking over those places. I mean, that's what the left did. So a lot of these cultural Marxists and Frankfurt schoolers did. They were sly. They eventually, crept into the universities, and then it became nepotism. And then before you know, it's like it's all them, and they're running everything,
right.
And all the curriculum's changing. Well, we have to take those institutions back. Children is very important, and communists always knew that. They always wanted the minds of children because that is the future. So if we can have more teachers in those positions, that would be great. And you know what? I do hear from teachers all the time, people that are closet Red Ice listeners and that support what we do. And I think that's fantastic. We need a lot more of that.
Oh, I'm absolutely one of them then.
Awesome. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. It's something that, as a teacher, it's a tough place to be. It's not nearly as, bloody as a battlefield, but it's pretty darn close because there's just so much animosity and so much bureaucracy surrounding you that you're fighting. You're on a very steep hill. And it's hard to make your way to the top of it when you're virtually alone. You might be incredibly lucky to find someone that's also, in the same mindset as you. But even then, it's still difficult to be fighting that battle.
It's amazing. You probably look around and like, wow, how is it that all these teachers are left? How did that happen? And they try and sniff them out when they hire them, too. They try and sniff out the leftists, It's just crazy. So do you have much freedom as a teacher, or is someone always over your back making sure that you're staying on point and teaching a certain curriculum?
Well, last year, which was my first year with the district, it was a little different. They were in there a lot more often. This year, it seems like they're satisfied that I did the dog and pony show for them when they were in. So they don't seem to really follow me around as much this year, which means I have a little bit more freedom in that regard. But the first year, I knew when they were coming. I was able to kind of anticipate when they would be there to evaluate. And so I did what I was supposed to do. I danced, like a little puppet, and I waited until they were gone. And then after they were gone, I was like, okay. And I told the kids that. I said, guys, when they're in here, I'm going to be different than I usually am. I just don't want you to be shocked. I want you to just play along. And they were like, okay. And, they kind of went along.
You made it fun for them in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were like, well, the first time it happened, they were like, what the hell is happening right now? Because I just totally turned into a different teacher because, I put on my nice voice and, okay, we're going to do this now. And they're just like, what are you doing? But I'm pretty hyper aware that they'll be watching and that they'll be listening. So I'm getting a little bit more underhanded as to, how I deal with it. If students ask questions about a particular topic, I had kids asking about the government shutdown several weeks ago. I have kids that ask about North Korea and how everything's going with that. I have kids asking about ISIS and Saudi Arabia and just all kinds of things. And they have honest questions. And I told them at the beginning of the year, I said, if you have questions, I won't answer you. I'm not going to give you, a biased view of anything. I'll give you the facts and you can make up your own mind. And I think that's something that a lot of teachers just don't do anymore. They don't let the kids make up their own mind.
Yeah, of course not. And I think it's really important, too, that you're stressing, hey, guess what? There's two sides to every story. So even though we may have to teach you about this one side of this war, there is another side.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
There's always another side.
That's one of the things that annoys me about our books, too. I mean, even though the books that we have are pretty decent books, when it comes to explaining our side of the story, you never get the other side. And that's just something as a history person that always bothered me. We only get one side of the narrative, and then we grow up being completely ignorant. And no wonder everybody around the globe is like, wow, you Americans are a bunch of dumbasses.
Well, they say the winner writes the history, right?
Yeah.
And the winner isn't always the good guy. That's what we have to remember.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the bad guys win and they write the history books.
I know. It's baffling when you think about it because, how could America ever be the villain? Right. But and you grow up thinking that your entire life, and then all of a sudden that changes. And now America is the bad guy in certain situations. And it's some kids, like their entire worldview is just shattered in an instant when you tell them that.
Yeah. Well, it's good. I'm glad that they have a teacher like you. I wonder how much they go home and tell their parents.
I wonder.
Yeah.
I wonder. Like I've had a couple instances where, parents were concerned. I had one at the beginning of this year who emailed the principal over my head and basically, told her, I'm worried that your teacher is she's injecting political bias into her teaching. And the principal came to me and she was like, I'm not worried. Should I be worried? And I'm like, no. And she believed me and she backed off. And I haven't heard anything since. But it's just, parents just get, and I get it, because if it were the other way around with leftists, I would be paranoid with my own kids. But at the same time, I wouldn't try to get the teacher fired. I just coach my own kids at home and say, listen, if this is what you're hearing, here's the other side.
The biggest draws for me in terms of the subject. In terms of teaching itself, I feel like that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to educate people about what the truth is. That could be the truth about algebra, the truth about biology, the truth about religion, whatever. I mean, whatever it is, that's what I'm here to do, is to help people seek truth and to understand truth. And whatever medium that happens to be, whether that's writing, whether that's actually lecturing, whether it's talking to you and having people listen to me, then that is what I'm here to do. It's just been something that was always appealing to me. I don't think there was ever a moment where I was like, I want to be a teacher. I think it was just this very organic thing that just seemed very natural to me. And it just kind of progressed as I grew older and as I went through my classes, and I realized that I wanted to be where that professor was standing. I wanted to be someone that people looked up to, that people respected, that people sought wisdom from, but not in the conventional sense. Just from within the first couple weeks on the job, and before I even got into public education, I knew it was going to be an uphill battle. I knew it was not going to be easy, especially as a conservative teacher teaching civics. I pretty much had all of the dominoes stacked against me on this one. And it was a challenge for sure. Luckily, we had another civics teacher who was just as non-PC as I was. So the two of us got along quite well and we helped each other out. But that is very true. I mean, there are so many things that are wrong with the system. And I can't speak for every public school, but I can speak for the one at which I taught. And at this school, I mean, I felt like you said, I was jumping through hoops. I was doing a dance more than I was teaching. And I was so focused on creating these things that were going to make my administrators happy, having beautiful PowerPoint presentations and having all this flimsy technology and making my kids look like they were engaged. And I told them, I basically bribed them. I was like, you better look engaged when they come in here. Because I was like, this is all— You're
passing out 20s.
Yeah, for real. Or Snickers bars. That usually makes them pretty happy. But
yep, sugar, a wonderful drug. You
better believe it. And, they knew it was all bells and whistles, because when I was in there, we would just discuss. We wouldn't do all that, let me lecture for 20 minutes and then we'll do this activity and then we'll do this and then we'll do this. I would just say, all right, let's talk. Let's talk. Because that's the best way to teach, I believe, is to engage in conversation. People learn things through the art of just conversing with someone else, hearing their opinion on something, learning when they might have, a gap in their understanding. But in the public school system, you're not allowed to do that sort of thing. The administration usually comes in with some sort of practice that they want you to implement. You must implement this practice. If you do not, your evaluations could suffer for it. And your evaluations most of the time determine whether or not they hire you the next year. And sometimes you don't know when they will come in. I think the very first evaluation, at least in this district, the first one they actually schedule with you. They say, hey, we're going to come in on this day. We're going to look at this class. We're going to see how you're doing so far. But then after that, they could come in anytime. So I had to be on my toes pretty much 24/7, watching to make sure that, if they came in, my kids knew exactly what to do. They knew exactly how to act when those administrators were in the room. And it was silly that we even had to do this, but that was the only way I would have survived, was if I was able to do the dance while they were there. And when they weren't.
Do you know what that makes me think of? Did you ever watch School of Rock?
Yes.
That part where the principal comes in and he's just like, oh, sure, come back this afternoon. it is the afternoon. I'm gonna sit in on your class now. And you just have to like ad lib it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's pretty much how I felt sometimes. I mean, sometimes they would catch me off guard, and they say, hey, can we come in and observe this class? And I would say, well, we're just taking a quiz today. It's going to be rather boring. And they're like, okay, I'll come back some other time.
Yeah.
And